I would like to call the Southline Community Schools School Board Special Meeting on December 14th, 2020 at 7 p.m. to order. Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Dashner.
I am here.
Mrs. McDowell.
Here.
Mr. Clark.
Here.
Mrs. Ertel.
Here.
I am here, Mr. Kennedy.
I am here.
And Ms. Hanshaw.
I am here. We have a quorum. First up is public comments. We only have one right now. And the first one is from Miss Holly Neal, and she states, per a board member, there is no one answer how to educate children during a pandemic. I can tell you we were unsuccessful compared to other districts. What have we changed to be successful for hybrid learning in January? Have we reached out to schools whom have been successful? The CDC states direct contact is within 6 feet for 15 minutes. So why are we quarantining entire buses and entire classrooms when there hasn't been direct contact with the one positive contact? Be innovative, use science. All right, next up, item number 4 is update to policy 1002, meetings of the Board of Education.
Yes, the district contracts with Miller Johnson, our legal firm for policy services, and Miller Johnson has provided an update to our policy 1002, meetings of the Board of Education. The updates are necessary in order for the district to be in compliance with changes to Michigan's Open Meetings Act. And the updates will provide flexibility in terms of the board conducting public meetings electronically or individual board members participating remotely for the outlined reasons. The policy committee reviewed the changes on December 7th, and the updated policy was brought to the December 7th Board of Education meeting, and no changes were requested. And we are recommending that you approve policy 1002, meetings of the Board of Education as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I will move to approve updating the policy 1002 for meetings of the Board of Education.
Support by Clark.
Moved by Mr. Kennedy, support by Mr. Clark. Any questions or comments on this policy revision? Okay, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Okay, Ms. Hanshaw.
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy.
I vote yes.
I vote yes. Mrs. Ertel.
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mrs. McDowell.
Yes.
And Mr. Dashner.
I vote yes.
Am I the one that's frozen?
I vote yes. If you didn't hear me.
I think you're good, Carrie.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear any of the roll call. So if everyone voted, then the motion passes 7-0. All right, item number 5 is Southline Community Schools Extended COVID-19 Learning Plan Reconfirmation.
Yes, thank you. I will make a few comments. I will work to be brief. I do want to recap, and I know we just reviewed this on the 16th and 23rd of November, but we are required to review it monthly, and this will be our opportunity for December. You'll recall the reasons for our pause in-person instruction were the significant increases to cases prior to Thanksgiving, our concern over the incubation period following Thanksgiving, certainly the operational strain on our system as it's impacted our instructional program, and the importance of consistency and routines at the elementary level. The Oakland County Health Department has reviewed our preparedness and response plan and confirmed that the mitigation measures being implemented are providing a safe environment for our schools. I think that's consistent with our experience, but noteworthy to have the Oakland County Health Department's endorsement of that as well. We are working ongoing to address the strain on our system. Folks have mentioned reaching out to other districts. This has been a common theme, reaching out to other districts, whether they are remote or in person. A majority of this strain is coming from a shortage of guest staff We began the year with finding additional third parties to provide guest bus drivers as an example. And we have employed a number of guest teachers as well in anticipation of support needed there. We've also found additional providers for guest paraprofessionals should that be needed. So again, this has been and will continue to be an ongoing effort while we continue to provide an education either in person or remote in this pandemic environment. Although in-person instruction is preferred, obviously, to remote instruction, I think that's the one thing our entire community is unanimous on. The temporary remote period did provide our elementary students with a consistent instructional model while we accounted for the incubation period following the Thanksgiving holiday. Again, during the pause, we worked to secure additional guest staff. We have reviewed our cleaning procedures and made adjustments there as well. Again, this was not an issue or problem that we had been experiencing, but it was something with the opportunity during our remote period to revisit so that we can pick up additional efficiencies with respect to our cleaning as well as the utilization of our staff. We have filled some additional custodial positions and continue to post them. I urge anyone interested in looking for this type of work to contact our administrative services department. I mentioned previously that the Oakland County Health Department did review our preparedness and response plan and confirms that it meets the standards of mitigation measures for in-person learning as were outlined in the Return to School Roadmap. A very special thank you to the Oakland County Commissioners. They have extended the Oakland Together School Nurse Initiative, which has provided us with 2 nurses. They have been of tremendous support to our district, in particular for training and informing staff, for outlining and developing policies and procedures, and as well as much of our notification and contact tracing, which I think was part of what was mentioned in our audience communication. Resuming in-person instruction on January 11th is consistent with the new CDC guideline with respect to the quarantine period. This revised quarantine period has been adopted by both the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the Oakland County Health Department. And so we will be implementing that as well. Moving forward, I apologize if I said I was going to be brief, but moving forward, we know that in-person instruction serves the greatest benefit to our students with their social, emotional, and academic needs. We know that as educators, as professionals, we know it as parents, we simply know it to our core. It is what benefits our students the most. We are counting families, students, and staff to continue to follow the identified safety protocols and mitigation measures so that we're able not only to welcome our students back to in-person instruction on January 11th, but to sustain it. The community spread played a tremendous impact on the strain on our system. And I think we showed very few, I think it was 41 or 45 school-associated during the reporting period, which when you look at 8,000 plus students and 1,000 plus staff is a relatively low percentage. But it's very important to realize the impact of a single case and what that can shut down with respect to the number of students and other individuals who need to be quarantined, which then has an impact on the instructional program. So this is not only an effort, in fact, as a school community, we should be extremely proud of not only the efforts of our staff in remote and in-person instruction, but the efforts of our parents, of our students, and of our staff in following these mitigation measures, but it is imperative, and I stress to everyone, and I thank everyone who is following them, but that we must be observing these practices not only in school, but in our community as well. As you know, this includes the wearing of facial coverings, avoiding social gatherings, washing our hands frequently, avoiding touching our mouth, our nose, or eyes. Please stay home when we're sick and avoid others who are sick when we can. In addition to the strict adherence to these mitigation measures in school, again, worth saying, this is a community effort, and one in which, folks, we have to be united in. We have to be. I know I'm the newest person to this school community, or one of the newest, but one of the things that we have built a reputation on is unity and strength of community. And we have to get back to that to make this work. We are recommending tonight continuing with remote instruction through January 8th, 2021, as previously approved by the board, with a scheduled return to in-person instruction for all students to the hybrid in-person, those that are on the hybrid in-person remote pathway, effective Monday, January 11th. Upon that return, we will follow the same schedule at the elementary and secondary levels that we were in prior to Thanksgiving. Again, that's 4 days per week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, with 100% of our elementary students in attendance, and Wednesday being a fully remote day. And at the secondary level, the 50% hybrid, with Wednesday being fully remote. And lastly, on Friday, Sue Toth and I met, and our two nurses met with one of the epidemiologists from the Oakland County Health Department as one of the other health officials. They are obviously very familiar with our numbers and the things going on in our community. We outlined this plan for them, and they indicated at that time that they are in support of this plan with the things for the reasons I mentioned. Recommended that we simply continue to monitor the data as we approach the return on the 11th.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I will move to approve the SLCS extended COVID-19 learning plan.
I'll support.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Kennedy, supported by Mr. Dashner to approve the learning plan as presented. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Can you describe to me, Mr. Archibald, about what exactly is different in January that would allow for face-to-face instruction?
Yeah, absolutely. Mentioned earlier, the key at the time that we went to remote was the strain, or one of the keys was the strain on our system. And so this has given us an opportunity to reset that, as well as to provide additional staff, guest staff to assist with that. We had a very high number of staff and students in quarantine and in isolation at the time we asked to go remote. And so again, that's one thing that we would anticipate to be different when we start back up in January, one significant thing to be different.
Maybe I could ask my question a different way. So when the district had everybody at home in October and decided to allow the hybrid to move to in-person learning, are we in a similar position right now, or do we anticipate being in a similar position in terms of community spread?
I'll defer to be experienced in education. I'm not a health expert. What we have seen, looking at the weekly reports provided by the health department, in their meeting with us on Friday, they indicated that they were optimistic based on the first reporting cycle following the holiday and where the numbers were at. You can look over the last 4 or 5 reporting cycles. We've looked frequently at the age groups throughout Oakland County, and those have started to level off, and actually in the last cycle or two, move downward. And for the first time in several cycles, the cases within the South Lyon boundaries, not necessarily school-related cases, but within the South Lyon boundaries, decreased. And so I think, again, following what the health department has indicated, they're optimistic that the numbers are, that the community is responding, and that the across Oakland County as well as South Lyon, and that the numbers are beginning to move in the right direction. But again, we'll need to continue to watch those.
And just so I'm clear, this is like referring to the the little line chart about the South Lyon Oakland County boundaries, about positive cases and cases per 10,000 that you shared with the board earlier. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, so when I look at that, it looks like I do see the recent dip, and I assume that's what you're talking about with the health department feeling optimistic.
That is one, as well as the health department. They follow about 15 metrics in terms of confirmed cases. The confirmed cases in the last reporting cycle have dropped or been reduced significantly. They also look at the 7-day and 14-day averages, which have dropped considerably. And again, over the last couple reporting cycles, the numbers of cases with respect to the school age are looking favorable. So those are some of the cases that are probably most related to us in schools, and the reason for their optimism.
Okay, but just to be clear, like we're talking about analyzing the data, the change in the data, as opposed to the values in the data. Like it's positive, it's good news that things are getting better, the rates are going down, but they still look to me to be multiples greater than they were back in October when the board originally allowed for face-to-face instruction. And I'm just asking, I understand.
I understand that.
I'm just trying to understand the data you're giving us.
I understand it very well. And my response to that would be, again, reaffirming the practices that we have in place in the district with our mitigation plans. Again, we are not protesting in any way, shape, or form that we've got the market cornered in schools, but schools across our county and across the state, from what the health experts are telling us, are doing a phenomenal job of working to keep their schools as safe as possible. Again, we are not naive enough to think that we can eliminate a risk, but our goal is to reduce the likelihood of spread within our schools as much as possible, but also then to respond to cases. I think really what we want to get back to is our health experts making health decisions and our education experts making education decisions, and making sure that we're able to provide for our students. And at this point, we think we're moving in a direction to welcome them back into our schools with open arms, from 6 feet away, but with open arms.
Were there any county plans that the Oakland County Health Department did not approve?
I did not ask them that. My main focus is South Lyon Community Schools, so I just work to make sure that we're moving in a proper direction. And again, we did not have any question at the time that our plan was that our plan would not be approved. In their request to review plans and our submission of the plans came about when the their risk level system came out. And if we recall on the grade of an E, it was to evaluate or consider moving to remote instruction, which again is what we did. And we wanted to make sure with them that our mitigation and preparedness plan was with their approval to be able to move forward with in-person instruction, and certainly glad to know that it is.
So are we still at a level E?
We are in the most current cycle. They indicated to us in the last meeting that it would require 2 weeks of being at whatever factor they use to determine the next level before they would actually move someone. So they want to see data over a period of time before moving it. So it would appear that you can move down, and I'm going from our conversation with the Oakland County Health Department and superintendents last week, you can move down that risk level a little faster than you can move up the risk level. But again, they want to see another cycle of information, which they'll get this week following Thanksgiving, to see whether that changes.
Okay, Mr. Clark? did you
Yes,
have a
thank
question?
you, President Henshaw. Obviously, I would support anything that we can do to get our students back into a face-to-face environment. For that reason, I would support Mr. Archibald's proposed plan to get us back into that environment on January 11th.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I mean, I do, but I don't want to. I don't want to take other people's space.
I think everyone else is ready to vote. So if you have more questions, you can go ahead and ask.
I'm very uncomfortable making a decision in mid-December about what things might look like a month out from now. I would rather see a more conservative approach being taken where we push the pause, say 1 week out, and allow for face-to-face to begin in January 18th, 19th, because the 18th is MLK Day, to give an extra bit of time. I think one of the very common themes that I've seen in the community response is that a great frustration with lack of consistency and pulling students in and out and in and out. And that makes a lot of sense, because while in-person instruction is obviously best and I want kids back in person, I don't see, it's also important, it's very important that they have a consistent routine, especially at the elementary grades. That's what we talked about last month. So I'd be shocked if we got to January that numbers were better after Christmas and New Year's, 10 days after New Year's, and that we aren't having to revisit this again in December or in February of bringing people, everybody back remote. It just makes me very uncomfortable. I think asking for 1 extra week to extend remote learning in January would help us make a more informed decision and offer students greater consistency.
Okay, well, 2 things. First, you are meeting on January 11th to discuss the plan again. I know that's the day we're supposed to come back, but if the numbers are bad, you can change your mind at that point. But as of right now, we have a motion on the table to approve the plan as proposed. If it fails, then we can discuss a second option, but
Okay.
let's go ahead and vote on this one and go from there. Any other questions from anybody else before we vote? Okay, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
All right, Mr. Dashner,
I vote yes.
Mrs. McDowell,
No.
Mr. Clark,
Yes,
Mrs. Zertel.
Yes.
I vote yes, Mr. Kennedy,
I vote yes.
and Mrs. Hanshaw.
I vote yes, so motion passes 6-1. Next up, item number 6 is the purchase of IXL, the Interactive Online Math Learning Program for grades JK to 2. Ms. Kudwal?
Yes, I have a series of purchases that we're discussing tonight. So as you'll recall, when we began the pandemic and we shifted to remote learning in the spring, a number of vendors made their products available to teaching staff for free. So our staff were able to try a number of different things out. And then when we brought them back over the summer and in the spring, we had them prioritize what their needs were for classrooms and then made our priority list. So as we are wrapping up the CARES spending, you'll see in here that there are some items that now that we are far enough down that list, we're able to add in. But because the CARES federal funds do need to be spent by the end of December, we have 3 things coming tonight for both information and approval. So IXL is an interactive online math learning program. The district will be purchasing an 18-month license for students in junior kindergarten through 2nd grade. And the program is there to provide differentiated mathematics content to support student growth in mathematics. Teachers are able to tailor the content to meet individual student needs and this will support both in-person and our remote learning. The purchase price includes licenses for 1,900 students and professional development for staff. The total cost is $31,885, and the purchase will be fully funded through the federal CARES funds. And again, the deadline for the spending is the end of December, so it necessitates bringing this item for action tonight as well. And if you'll recall, we were able to purchase NWEA's MAP accelerator for grades 3 through 5 at elementary. That product is not available for junior kindergarten through 2nd grade. This product is comparable and they align very nicely to be able to move from one to the other. So this is meeting a need that we had to have an additional piece available for lower L as well. And we are recommending that you approve the purchase of IXL for use with students in grades JK through 2 for a cost of approximately $31,885. And I do have Ms. Ingram here tonight if you have any questions.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the purchase of item number 6 as outlined.
I'll support.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Clark, supported by Mr. Kennedy. Any questions or comments on the IXL?
I just have a quick question. With this being an 18-month subscription, I assume this is still useful when the kids are doing in face-to-face in-person education. And I'm asking this mainly because I'm guessing there's going to be members of the community that are wondering why we're purchasing an online math program for 18 months.
So the 18-month license is nice because typically they're going to give you a 12-month license, Mr. Dashner, which would have taken us to the middle of next school year. So by allowing us to do the 18-month license, we're able to continue the product through the full school year. And so students will be able to use it this school year, over the summer, and then throughout the next school year as well. It has a place both in the classroom when we're in person and in the classroom in a remote setting. So it should be very beneficial.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a quick comment that I'll make for this this purchase of IXL and the next 2 as well. These did go before Curriculum and Communications, the committee last week, and we did discuss the expenses and the benefits for all 3 of these.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy, for outlining that, because I think the community doesn't know that a lot of this goes through the committee first. So
It did
and
normally.
we probably should mention too that these purchases are being made with federal funds that have been funneled through the state through the CARES Act. So.
Right. Typically, these would come for us for a first reading and then to the next board meeting for action. But since time is of the essence, they did go through committee, and that's why they're here with us tonight.
Thank you.
So these purchases are based off of teacher survey data from the spring, and there was no additional information to inform the decision since teachers have gotten several additional months of online teaching under their belt.
So these would have been on the list initially, and then we would have had committees take a look at them and determine which purchases we wanted to make. So the list of things that staff gave feedback on was rather extensive. And then we went through that list and prioritized if we were purchasing something, what were the things that were most beneficial. So this is the one that was recommended by a committee for lower elementary.
All right. Any other questions?
I have a quick one.
Yep.
And maybe Ms. Kudo, maybe we're early in the process there because I know we're just making a purchase. Are we is it on our radar to do a little bit of training or PD for folks for the program?
So Yes, this is included along with the purchases and professional development for staff, Mr. Abate, and that will be taking place at the January 18th PD.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, with that, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
Okay, I vote yes. Mrs. Ertel,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mrs. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Dashner,
Yes.
Ms. Hanshaw,
Yes,
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes.
motion passes 7-0. Item number 7 is the purchase of Second Step, the social emotional learning resources.
Yes, Second Step is a social emotional learning resource, and the district is purchasing 2 early learning bundles for use at our early childhood center, along with a K-5 learning bundle for each of our elementary schools and school licensing for each of the middle school social workers. The resources will be utilized by our district social workers as they support individual students, small groups, and classes if needed. The total cost is $34,959.60, and the purchase is fully funded through the federal CARES money. Deadline for CARES funding necessitates bringing this for both information and approval this evening. And we are recommending that you approve the purchase of Second Step for the use with students at the Early Childhood Center and in grades JK through 8 for a cost of approximately $34,959.60. And again, Ms. Ingram, who oversees the district's general education social workers, is here if you have additional questions.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move to purchase the Second Step social emotional learning resource as presented.
I'll
I
second.
will-
Moved by Ms. Ertel, supported by Mr. Abate. Any questions or comments regarding the Second Step purchase? Okay, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
All right, Mrs. Hanshaw,
Yes,
Mr. Kennedy.
I vote yes.
I vote yes as well. Mrs. Ertel,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mrs. McDowell,
Yes.
and Mr. Dashner.
I vote yes.
motion passes 7-0. Item number 8 is the purchase of Nearpod, subscription service for grades 6 through 12, teachers and students.
Nearpod is an online tool that will allow our teachers to convert their lessons into an interactive format for students who are learning both in person and remotely. Nearpod integrates with our current technology in the district and also includes over 8,500 lessons that are aligned to Michigan standards. Nearpod can be used to conduct formative assessments as well, and Nearpod has flexibility built in for teachers, which allows them to use the program to teach live, to post student-paced lessons, or to teach remotely. Nearpod also gives teachers detailed engagement reports, so teachers are able to see how long students are engaged with lessons and what work they have completed. The reports give real-time data to teachers so they can use the information to plan for the next day's lesson. The purchase price includes licenses for all secondary staff and students and includes the additional social emotional learning lesson package and professional development for staff, and the total cost is $25,083. And the purchase again is fully funded through the federal CARES funds. And we are recommending that you approve the purchase of Nearpod for use with students and teachers in grades 6 through 12 for a cost of approximately $25,083. And Ms. Weber is here tonight if you have additional questions about this purchase.
Great, thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move to purchase Nearpod subscription service for teachers and students in grades 6 through 12 as presented.
I'll support.
Moved by Ms. Ertel, supported by Mr. Kennedy. Any questions or comments on the Nearpod subscription? I just wanted to thank Ms. Kudwa, Ms. Englund, and Ms. Weber for all this hard work. I know a lot of extra work went into getting this and spending our CARES funding in a very useful way for our students. So I appreciate it.
Thank you for that.
And I'd also like to say thanks for making use of the federal grant money so we didn't lose it.
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure we used every last drop of that fund.
Well, we appreciate that. All right, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Oh,
So it's my understanding Nearpod is really popular with our secondary teachers in the district, so much so that many of them chose to purchase the license for their classroom themselves. Is there anything that the district can offer to support teachers who've paid out of pocket for this service already?
So I do not believe we can use this to purchase a subscription. It's and cost that's better than what you could get for the individual price because you are buying for a full district. So I don't believe that it will replace that, but we did purchase a level at which that might not have been the license that they purchased. So they might still be getting additional supports within that product beyond what they purchased on their own.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Mr. Abate, please call the roll.
All right, Mr. Dashner,
I vote yes.
Ms. Hanshaw,
Yes.
Ms. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
I vote yes, and Mrs. Ertel.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item number 9 up next is the 2020-2021 budget amendment number 1. Ms. Witt. Oh,
Good evening, everyone. Tonight in your board packets is up for informational only, or not voting on this tonight, is the 2021 budget amendment number 1. Next slide, please, Chester. We'll first go over the 2021 state aid funding. Next slide, please. The Finance Committee met last week on December 7th and December 10th. We reviewed the 2021 budget amendment number 1, line item detailed. The Finance Committee was presented line item detailed at the 7th meeting. And then we reconvened on December 10th so that they had plenty of time to review and ask any questions. We reviewed changes in the revenues versus the original 2021 budget, changes in the expenses versus the original 2021 budget. We discussed maintaining the budget cuts that were included in the original budget. Next slide, please. We also discussed enrollment. We discussed the 2021 super blend that the state aid is funding the foundation allowance at in this current year. We discussed forecast projections and also having the possibility of suspending the fund balance policy to prepare for the next few years. Next slide, please. We'll now discuss some of the revenues. Next slide, please. In this 2021 budget amendment 1, we have total revenues of $95,026,621, total expenditures of $94,073,284. We have a net operating income of $1,799,337, transfers to other funds of $846,000, which puts a net increase to the fund balance projected at the end of this year of $953,337. Next slide, please. Changes from the proposed budget approved in June were increased to state aid due to the flat foundation from 1920. We maintained the $8,111 foundation that we were receiving last year. And in the original budget, we budgeted for a $500 cut. And also adjusted in this budget is the super blend count formula. We increased the COVID revenues with CARES funding by approximately $4.4 million that we received in CARES funding. We also updated the grant budgets to the 2021 approved amounts. Next slide, please, Chester. So our 1920 per pupil foundation was $8,111. In the amended budget, we are projecting, or we're budgeting for $8,111. No increase. Next slide, please. The state passed a law that it's called the super blend. We're not funding this year on enrollment like we currently did, as many public school districts have experienced a loss in student count. So we are actually using 4 different counts to do the super blend. We use our 2019 spring student count, which was 8,600.18. Our 2019 fall student count, which was 8,773.28. Our 2020 spring student count, which was 8,725.08. and our 2020 fall unaudited student count is at 8,187.09. Next slide, please. The super blend, this is how it's calculated for the 2021 fiscal year. They take our typical calculation of 90%, 10%. You use 90% of your fall count, 10% of your spring count, is how you calculate state aid in any given year. For 2021, 75% of your student count is based off of the 2019-20 blend. 25% of your student count is based off of the 2021 student blend. So we take 90% of fall 2019 count, 10% of spring 2019 count, that's making up 75% of the student count. The fall 2020 student count at 90%, the spring 2020 student count at 10%, and that amount is making up 75 or 25% of the student count. Next slide, please. So those two calculations, the 1920, 75% is 6,566.30. The 25% of the 2020 average student count is 2,060.22, which gives us a super blended student count for the 2021 school year of 8,626.52. Next slide, please. One more tester, please. Changes from the proposed budget in the expenditure category. We have increased custodial staffing due to the additional positions that we added and the overtime that we are paying our current staff to fill in the positions that we still have open. We increased our sub-staffing expenditures. We increased Schedule C payments for teachers doing extra jobs and picking up extra hours that are going to be more this year than in years before. We increased a lot of janitorial supplies and other things, teacher supply or student supplies with COVID expenses that's covered through the CARES funding. And I updated the grant budgets to the 2021 approved amount. Next slide, please. One more. We'll discuss the financial forecast now. Since the student count is a major factor in projections, in the 2021 super blend formula preserved our budget this year. We're not certain what the student blend formula will be in the forecasted years. In the budget that you received in your enclosure, it's basically funding us. Its student count is growing off of what we used this year for our student count, which was the super blend. But our actual spring 2020 count was 8,725.08, and our fall 2020 count was 8,187. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to discuss what that will look like for forecasting, because we do not know what next year will look like. So in amendment budget 1, the forecasts for 21-22 projects 0% increase in enrollment, 0% state aid, but that's based off of this year's blended count. 2022-23 projects a 1.4% student enrollment increase and a 1% state aid increase. 23-24 projects 1.4% increase in student enrollment, state aid at 1%. The next slide I'm going to show you, or we're going to go over, is the potential if no super blend is used next year and we do not recover the student loss in 2021. So looking at the next numbers on the next slide, 2021 is looking at a 4.66% student enrollment decrease, and then a 1% in student enrollment increase from that loss in the next 2 years. State aid increase of 0% for 2021-22, 1% increase in 22-23, and a 1% increase in 23-24. Next slide, please. So if we look at the reality of if we get no super blend formula next year and we don't recover a lot of the student loss from this year, 21-22 is looking at a $4,069,000 loss. We'll be dipping into the fund balance. At that loss, we would bring our fund balance down to $6,265,000, and we would not be meeting our budget policy of 10% plus or minus 1 in the fund balance. to continue on to the next year, 22-23, it shows a $4.6 million loss, dropping the district fund balance to 1.5 million, where of course we're not meeting the budget policy. And in 2023 or 23-24, it projects another $4.5 million loss. And in that year, we would be in a deficit district as our fund balance would not be able to cover it. So I just want to bring this into attention because this year we're looking at projecting $1 million to the fund balance. We don't want to spend that. I don't want to be grim, but we just need to keep in mind, we don't know what the next few years are going to look like with this pandemic. It's going to continue to hurt us. We don't know the federal funding that will come in. So we do want to stay more on the conservative side. That is the end of my presentation. Can I take any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
Sure, I always have questions. The students that we lost this year were to homeschooling or other nearby districts, or do you have any idea of where those students went?
We'll run some. Go ahead, Stacy. Do you want to, or you want me to?
Go ahead, Steve.
We'll run some reports, and we have that information, and as to where our students went, whether it was to homeschool, area parochial schools, other districts. That's information we'd have not only this year, but in past years as well. So we'll start by gathering that information and first identifying those individuals who still reside within the district but have chosen other options, and put a detailed plan in place to begin to reach out to those folks and work with them and welcome them back to the district. And I'll offer this, though. I do not say that lightly. This is public education has been a highly competitive market for the past 5 to 10 years at least. We have had in South Lyon, from my history and preparation for my interviews, I think it was about 6% of our total population living in our attendance area of our school population, but attending school elsewhere. So we are in a competitive, highly competitive market. We do not take that for granted, and we'll certainly work to know that we have an exceptional product here educationally, and work to again retain as many of our students as we can, as well as bring as many of them back as we can. But it will take a very concentrated and deliberate effort, which we will do.
Yeah, yes, we will. I would just like to add to that. This has happened at every public school district in the state of Michigan, and why they had introduced and funding schools with the super blend model, so that this didn't hurt districts, public school districts, from losing kids to private school and homeschooling, like that. So this is happening all across public schools.
I had another question. So, and forgive me for being new and trying to just wrestle with budgets. What we got in the board packet is a summary, but it's my understanding that in the past, the board usually gets a line item level report.
That is correct. That was discussed at the finance committee level, that we would move to what the state of Michigan recommends, with the approval summed up by function level. That's what they require school districts to do, and not submit a line item. But it is our policy and procedure of how we're going to move forward, is submit a line item, that same line item, to the finance committee prior to any budget going to the board. So there are board members still getting that line item detail.
Okay, but board members have to ultimately vote on it, and without having that line item detail, because like I'm not on the finance committee, it's difficult to understand something as complicated as a budget that's been summarized by somebody else. And I would really much rather see a line item budget in the future.
That's something we can discuss with the Finance Committee.
Okay. Any
And the
additional?
finance committee gets reshuffled with board members in January. Ms. Hancher, I don't know if you can answer that for me, helping to understand what happens between now and our January meeting.
Yeah, so the January organizational meeting or after that, the president will assign everyone committees. There's a handful of committees and they divvy up the board members, 3 per committee. So you can let the president know which committee you would like to be on, but ultimately the president gets to decide who's on what committee.
I don't know if this is something, but we can also discuss the finance committee. There's no reason why a finance committee member couldn't share the line item details with a board member outside of the finance committee. I mean, we're not.
It's just confusing that there was a change, and I would rather, make my decisions with as much information as possible. So we can take this offline, but if somebody from the finance committee could explain that justification, I think it's important that we're all informed when we make.
The question isn't about having the information. The question is about what comes to the board ultimately for approval. And Ms. Witt has done a tremendous job of explaining it in the past and within the committee. And we can certainly reach out and provide that additional information.
Right, but as a board member, I've gotten specific questions about what happened to teachers getting their $100 this year that they've been getting for many years. And I can't guess any of that from this summary.
That's correct. And as a board member, you should refer that to the business office where those questions can best be answered.
Or you could also call specific members that are on the finance committee. They'd be more than willing to explain it as well. So, Mr. Dashner, did you have a comment regarding this?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think it's very important to realize that the function of the board is to approve the budget as a whole. We're not approving the line item budget and every single account that's under that. We're approving the wrap up of the budget. And if it gets to this point, it's one thing in information, but if it gets to the point of trying to approve a budget and we're arguing over pennies that are in obscure accounts buried way in the budget, that's not going to help anybody. And that's not our function as a board to do that. As a finance committee, we look at those accounts, we look at where things are. We've got administrators that are involved in the committee that also look at that. We have representatives from the teachers union that look at that and provide comments. So there's been a lot of review by the time it gets there. So to expect that to happen at this upper board level, it's just not reasonable. And that's not what we're passing anyway. We're passing the rolled up budget. We're passing the total. How much are we going to spend? How much are we projecting in revenues? And how much do we project to put in the fund balance?
I'm not looking to rehash discussions that have happened in committee. I'm just trying to get informed as a board member about the things that I'm voting on.
And we can send you the budget.
Yeah, and you're not voting on this today.
I understand that.
Okay.
We can get you the line item budget if that's what you like, but the finance committee, we determine whether or not we want to pass it to the board. We did it with this, and that shouldn't make a difference on how we vote because we're not voting those line items into B with our vote.
Well, with all due respect, Mr. Dashner, I think I'll make decisions about what information I think I need to make a vote.
I would highly suggest you attend Board 101 so you understand what our function is, Ms. McDowell.
I do.
Okay, let's move on. Any other questions or comments regarding the budget? Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Witt.
Yes, thank you. All right, next up is item 10, our second opportunity for public comment. We have 3. First up is Kimberly Argentini. And she says, what is the plan for 100% face-to-face for middle high school? What criteria are you using to get the kids back into school full time? Do you talk to other districts that are face-to-face, such as Howell, on how they handle outbreaks and positive cases? And we have Miss Chris Dupree. This has taught me that we need to understand the ideologies of board candidates. Board elections appear inconsequential, buried on the ballot below the Wayne State trustees. It is not enough to tell the community, I've got 2 kids at Brummer and I want to serve. Boards used to approve $5,000 invoices for playground equipment. Now they're making value judgments that are impacting the education of our kids. Who besides Mr. Clark is doing anything other than yielding to the will of the superintendent? And our last public comment is a call-in. Mr. Brummer, are you on the line?
Yes, Ms. Hanshaw, I am.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Good evening to the Board of Education, Mr. Archibald and your administration. I wish you all the best in these tumultuous times and thank you for the opportunity to speak. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Steve Brummer. I served on this board from 2010 to 2016. And I served with many good different board members in my tenure. Just to name off a few, there's one still on the board for the next 6 years, so I'm going to have to wait to speak more about Mr. Abate. But I served with Don Beagle, I served with Doug Curry and Dave Talby, Justin Gussick, Barb Murphy. I respect them all. We had different points of view. Sometimes they were contentious. Sometimes, we were able to work things out. We always work things out in the long run. I respect them all. They all came to the table ready to do the work, ready to do what they believe was what was best for kids. I'll tell you something though. None was as great as Carrie Hanshaw. I first met Carrie shortly after I was elected to the board in 2010. She came to me to discuss some issues that she was having with special education at the time. We instantly hit it off, having some common interests with improving the district in this specific issue. And I was lucky enough to make such a great friend and then have someone I could coax into running for a board seat the following election. Now, working with Carrie is a wonderful experience if any of you had the opportunity with it. The past and current board members would agree, and remember, I don't always agree with them. There's only one rule to working with Carrie on the board, though, and it's simply all about the kids. She's never gotten political in her decision making. She simply asked, is this best for the kids? All the kids. That's it. If you don't share that with her, then good luck. It's never been about politics or big night winning a debate. Carrie will gladly concede any argument if you prove to her it's the best thing for the kids, but rarely does she have to concede. She has always been well-studied, prepared, and passionate. When she debates, she's thoughtful and open-minded. Hanshaw listens and then displays a remarkable gravitas for data, informed opinions from in and out of the district, and informs whoever has her ear where she stands and why. But most of all, she's respectful. Anyone that has the opportunity to win that debate is important. If that is important for them, it will be simply by proving it is good for kids. Hanshaw has been honest and well-intended on this board, even in tumultuous times when members of the public or even members of this board would have the gall to question her motives. She would never lose her cool. She never held a grudge, and she always went back to the mission. Carrie has never needed publicity or fanfare. It's quite fitting, actually, that we are in this current kind of environment when normally on a normal night, there'd be quite a few people from the public speaking on the thank yous and a number of accomplishments from such a tenure. Here's the thing though, Carrie doesn't need it. There's no ego to prop up. It was never about that with her. It was simply about the kids. The board will hurt for this loss, but it will be fine. She has set the standard for current and future board members on how to conduct themselves and the brand of work ethic that is needed on this board to simply do what is best for the kids. To paraphrase Shakespeare, you may never see her kind on this board again. Thank you, Carrie, but most of all, thank you to Jamie, Nicole, and Amanda for their support. Thank you for your years of service that you have given to this community, Ms. Hanshaw. Job well done.
Thank you, Mr. Brummer. And normally we would adjourn, but since this is the last board meeting of the year, and for a couple of us, it's our last board meeting, I am going to offer an opportunity for board comments. Mr. Clark, do you have anything to say tonight?
Thank you, President Hanshaw. I'm going to keep it really short. I want to, express my gratitude to the community for the support and the trust that they placed in me for my 6-year term. Hopefully, I've upheld my end of the bargain and provided the best decisions I could to support the South Island Schools community. I also would like to reach out to our executive assistant, Judy Weimer. Her counsel during the term that I was president was invaluable. I do hope that both her and Bill have an opportunity to enjoy some retirement soon. Judy, I really appreciate your help. And to the board members, hold your head high, make the best decisions you possibly can. Remember, you are here to support the whole community. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McDowell?
I just wanted to pass along thanks to Ms. Hanshaw and Mr. Clark for all your service over the last many years. And I have been trying to study and catch up on what each of you have accomplished. There's a lot to learn. So thankfully we have videos. And I just want to thank you for your service to the district. It's a lot. This is definitely not an easy job. And to the community, I just want to say happy holidays and to please stay safe.
Thank you. Ms. Ertel?
Yes, thank you. I'm glad that we're able to make a mention tonight, as this is our last board meeting for the year. And to that, I want to say thank you to both Mr. Clark and Mrs. Hanshaw. For the 2 years that I've been on the board, it's been all sorts of adjectives: interesting, exciting, scary, all sorts of those things for the first 2 years. I'm going to enjoy the next 4 years knowing that I've learned quite a bit from both of you, and hope to take that information and move forward. I'd like to say happy holidays to the community. I'd also like to say happy holidays to all the teachers and staff in the district. Please enjoy your 2 weeks off. I know that you all have worked incredibly hard under very difficult circumstances and have done the absolute best that you possibly could do for your students and their families. So enjoy your time off, enjoy your time with your family, enjoy whatever holiday you may celebrate, and put some smiles on your own children's faces, and hopefully they put smiles on your face. Happy holidays to everybody, and good luck to Ms. Hanshaw and Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dashner?
I'd like to start by thanking Mr. Brummer for calling in with that public comment. I thought it was very nice and very appropriate, and appreciate him doing that. Carrie, Randy, I thank you, each of you, for the service you provided to the district. I've enjoyed the viewpoints that both of you have offered on different occasions, and it's going to be a great loss to no longer have either of you on this board. My last comment for tonight, and I wrote it down so I can get through this, but I'm sure some of you have heard about the loss we've had at South Lyon East with the assistant swim coach, Casey Paul. She passed away unexpectedly early Sunday morning. I want to extend my deepest condolences to the Van Buskirk family and the Paul family on the loss of Casey. My heart just absolutely breaks for all the South Lyon swimmers, past and present. Coach Cipolla, Coach Crosby, Coach Birch, Coach Ferg, and lastly, our girls swim team that just finished their season and had a banquet with her Friday night. She impacted a lot of lives. She touched a lot of people, and it's going to be very tough getting over the next few weeks without her. You just want to make sure that everyone supports each other, watches out for each other, and, you know, make sure we're lifting each other up.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy?
You guys make it hard to follow, Mr. Dashner and Ms. Ertel and Ms. McDowell and Mr. Brummer. Thanks to our community for helping out and stepping up and doing what we do. Let's continue to keep those numbers down. This is my 4th year on the board, and I have learned a lot from every single one of you, Mr. Clark and Ms. Hanshaw included. All I can offer to both of you is happy retirement from the board. I wish you nothing but the best and the most heartfelt thank you for your service. even though it isn't just a service that you provide, it's your passion, and that is much appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Have a
Kennedy.
good holiday, everybody.
Thank you. And Mr. Abate.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to echo what Mr. Dasher said. Heart to go out to the Van Buskirk family for just a tragic loss. Terrible news. And I'm sure that the family and the athletes and the coaches are all hurting tonight. I don't know all of the coaches. I know John Birch and Kevin Ferguson are really good people, and I'm sure that though they're hurting, they're undoubtedly providing leadership for their athletes, and we appreciate that. And I was really sorry to hear that news. Mr. Clark, wish you well in your post-board endeavors. It's been quite an adventure. Thanks so much for your service, sir. Carrie Hanshaw, my colleague, my friend, Brummer had to call in and just steal it all. He said a lot of nice things, and he said a lot of true things. And Carrie, for those of you who don't know, has been engaged in board business for 11 years, which predates her actual election to the board by 3 years. She's been a tireless advocate for kids. The stuff that you guys don't see behind the scenes is how well she keeps us organized and how strong she's been, especially during this pandemic and answering about 1 billion emails and trying to keep everything going for everybody when things especially got pretty heated. Did a wonderful job. You've been the best of us for quite a long time. And it's going to be hard to not have you with us and provide your leadership. And if we ever get back in person, it'll be a bummer to not have you sitting there, so I can try to make you laugh during the meetings. But well played, Ms. Hanshaw. Really great work over all these years. And thanks to everybody. Have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been an emotional couple days. So yeah. Much love to Casey's family and Julie's family. Thank you to Mr. Clark for your years of service. It's been a great 8 years. I'm just happy that I have played a small role in South Lyon over the past 8 years. We've gone through a lot of interesting times, but I look forward to seeing great things from this district again. I think we are in very good hands, both with our current administration as well as our current board. And our board that will be starting in January. So good luck to everyone. Have a wonderful holiday and a much needed break for everyone. All right.
Ms. Hanshaw, may I also
Absolutely.
express my thank you to you and Mr. Clark. Your years of loyal, dedicated, and faithful service to our entire school community do not go unnoticed. Both of you have given unselfishly of your time, of your energy, and of your talents. And it is not easy to be a good and effective board member. From what I have experienced, both of you have given your all in that regard, and our community has benefited from it. On a personal note, it's my loss to not have a longer opportunity to work with you both. But it is also my hope that neither of you changes your cell phone number, and that I'm able to reach out to you, because I know that there is still much for me to learn, and insightfulness from both of you that will be of value and continued service to the district. So again, on behalf of the district, I thank you both immensely. I wish you both nothing but the best going forward.
Thank you.
Anytime, Steve.
Folks, I apologize. I have to step into another meeting at the last second here. I need maybe Jenny could call the roll. I'm going to step out. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye. Thanks, Tony. All right. Ms. Ertal, with that, will you call the roll to adjourn the meeting? Well, actually, I need a motion to adjourn.
Absolutely.
I'll move to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, I need support.
Support by Dashner.
Thank you. Moved by Mr. Clark, supported by Mr. Dashner. Now, Mr. Tell, you can call the roll.
All right. Mr. Kennedy,
I vote yes.
Mr. Dashner,
I vote yes.
Ms. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
I vote yes. Ms. Hanshaw,
I vote yes. Motion passes 6-0. We are adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Be well.
Good night, stay well, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Same to you all.